Welcome to the On Your Side podcast. I am Susan Campbell, and I am joined by one of our producers extraordinaire, Kelly Gannon. Thank you so much for pinch hitting with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was too good of a topic to pass up.
So. I mean, I figured. So this was one of those topics where I was like, who should I chat with? And I thought of you right away because I think one of our very first conversations when you started in the newsroom was we should go grab a glass of wine together. We haven't done it yet, though. It's been years.
I know. We should do that, though. So we should put it back on the list for just post-holiday.
I think after this podcast, we're going to be inspired to maybe go do a little tasting together.
And we'll know all the right questions to ask now, too.
Absolutely. So we want to bring in Matthew Horkey into this conversation because we are talking everything wine. We know wine pairs well with the holidays. But before we jump into that, I just want to know a little bit of your story because people have seen you all over social media. You seem to know everything about wine. How did you get into this industry?
Well, the more you know about wine, the more you think you know about something, the more you realize you don't know anything, and that wine's the case. I'm a chiropractor by training. I'll keep it short and sweet. I was practicing abroad. I had practices in Singapore and Jakarta, Indonesia. I took a sabbatical in 2015 to travel around the world. I traveled around the world, and it morphed into this career because I was just spending all of my money on eating and tasting wine. So for 7 years, I traveled without a house. 2015 to 2022, I traveled all over the wine world, learning on the ground. I've been to almost every wine region on the planet. I still travel a lot. This year, even though I'm back in the States, I was abroad 200 out of the 200 days this year. I think since August 15th, I've only been home 15 days. So I get to travel a lot. That's the benefit of being in this business and being in my world.
I guess. So what does it take to become kind of an expert in this? I mean, obviously lots of tastings. I could taste wine all day long, and I'm never going to feel like I understand the notes or the palate.
The nuances.
Yeah. I'm not there. I know I'm not. I would love to be. But what does it take to get there?
Well, first of all, people confuse a lot. They think that they need to know a lot about wine to enjoy it, which is completely false. It's impossible. What you get is different from what I get. If a wine smells like puppy dogs, it smells like puppy dogs. Technically, wine has 1,000 volatile compounds. It's the most complex beverage on the planet. Tea is the second place with 600. This is documented research. So you have to think we are probably only conscious, maybe, I don't know, neurologist, if there are neurologists listening, he's going to tear me up, but maybe 50 bits of information a second. How many of that's dedicated olfaction? I mean, there is a reason why I might pick up red cherry and you might pick up raspberry or puppy dogs. So it really doesn't matter. For me, the ultimate purpose of a bottle of wine is to keep people you love at the dinner table a little bit longer because conversations flow differently when you're drinking a bottle of wine versus if you're drinking spirits or beer.
Oh, goodness. That is so true. I can think back to some of my favorite meals with my family, and red wine was probably involved.
Red wine is a good one. Or white wine, depending on the white wine.
So I have to ask you said you've traveled to all of these different wine regions. Do you have a personal favorite?
I spend a lot of time in Eastern Europe. I just got back I was on a 2-month trip. I was in Rioja, Spain, Serbia, Bulgaria, but I always like going back to Tuscany. I know it's cliche, but I love Italy. I love the food. Tuscany really has a special place in my heart, but I was in South America 3 times this year. That was phenomenal. California, Arizona. There's some beautiful wines being made out there in Arizona, actually, New Mexico. So the great thing about wine is great wine usually has to be made in a beautiful place. If you think about some of the greatest wines in the world, when people really get into it, like I was a geology and chemistry major in undergrad. I love geology. I love maps. And some of the greatest wine regions on the planet are in these beautiful locations. So every place is pretty special. Wherever great wine is made, it's usually, even Thailand. I was on a trip with the Thai Wine Association a few years ago, and Thailand's one of the most touristed places on the planet. Also an amazing place. Who knew?
I love that. You brought up Arizona, so we have to ask because I think people forget often that we do have a couple different wine growing regions here,
up north and down south.
And it's an amazing kind of very small community trying to get the word out. give us an idea of how smaller places like an Arizona wine growing region are kind of becoming players in this industry.
Well, I think they need to just like Virginia. I actually have a Virginia wine in my glass, a Cabernet Franc from Virginia from Blenheim Vineyards, and they can really play off the fact that or local visitors can come to the tasting room, can come taste wines. It's better for the wineries because they can sell wines and still at better margins, because to make great wine is super expensive. People don't realize that. That's why wine tends to be more expensive. It's not Coca-Cola. It's not beer where you can just get malts, water, and just make a new batch all the time. So I think that like you have Caduceus there, former lead singer of Tool, fantastic wines. It just takes one person with notoriety or making great wines for that region to start making a name for itself. I started my career in exotic wine regions, Eastern Europe, ex-Yugoslavia, Georgia, Turkey, Armenia. And what happens in those regions is usually one standout winery, one standout wine gains notoriety, and that puts the spotlight on the entire region. I mean, so that's what I can't remember Maynard's doing over there. So that's like one of the main reasons people know about wine from Arizona.
I love that. So we got to get to the holiday parties. Maybe we are hosting. Maybe we need a perfect host gift. Do you like taking wine to parties for a gift?
I like taking wine to parties for a gift, but I always wonder, like, do I want it to be something that the hostess is going to serve that night? So should it be chilled, or should I give something that I'm going to assume that they're just going to put away? So I find it stressful because and if I don't know what kind of wine they like I always wonder, like, am I getting something if I like it? Are they going to like it? So
that is a good question. I feel like maybe we could start there. Like, is there a really great gift wine that is more of a people pleaser?
That Kelly, you just asked the two most important questions. And number one, I think communication is clear. Like you bring this bottle, like, hey, I wanted to share this with everybody here. So you don't wonder, oh, is this just going to get put away? Or like if it's a super special friend, you could bring two bottles, one as a gift, one to open up for everybody. And I think the second important question when people stress out is, yes, knowing your crowd. Are you going to a party where people are just going to drink a bunch of wine, we're just going to talk, we're just going to taste wine, it doesn't really matter what it is, then you want something friendly? Is this more of a discerning palate? You always have those type of friends that know quite a bit about wine or pretend to know a little bit about wine, so you bring something a little bit more special. I would have to say, in that regard, you identify the people that you're going to visit, and then number two, you become friendly with local shop owner, specialty shop owner, or maybe even upscale supermarket that's in the wine department. I worked retail just to gain experience up until August. I worked a year part-time just to see that side of the business. And these people are very underutilized people in the wine space because they're passionate. They want to talk, but they want to help you. They're not there they're not working on commission. They don't care if they sell you a $500 bottle or a $20 bottle, which is absolutely perfectly okay. Utilizing those people for their expertise and passion, I think, is key. So identifying, being communicative, being upfront that this is the bottle you want to share with everybody at the dinner table, knowing your crowd, and then making relationships with places that you frequent, that you buy wine. I think that's the biggest key. That's more important than the actual bottle that you're bringing. But I do have a few examples here, I think, that
so let's jump in. Show us some examples.
I think white wine. Kelly just said, oh, white wine is not bad too. Actually, when you work in the wine business as a professional, you start to prefer white to red because red becomes quite tiring. I mean, I taste 5,000-6,000 wines a year. The tannins, the acidity can start to catch up, so white wine's easier to drink. I think that Pinot Grigio is always a crowd favorite. And I got this one, actually an American company, Mascan, is well distributed, Pinot Grigio. Now, this is a little bit more, it's like $25. A lot of Pinot Grigio is about as exciting as tap water, but actually it's a fantastic grape. And actually, for your viewers, another fun fact you want to impress people to do, Pinot Grigio is actually more of a pink or red skin grape. Actually, they take the skins off, and that's where you get white wine. So Pinot Grigio.
Did you know that?
I did know that, actually.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, good. Okay.
We got married in wine country, so we've done a couple of tours here and there. So that's one of the very few fun facts that I know.
So I would say when you go to supermarket, there's a lot of Pinot Grigios that are in the sub $12 range. I know prices are rising if you can, you don't have to spend a ton more, but if you get up to that $19 to $20 range with Pinot Grigio, you're going to get a wine that's vastly better than some of the cheap stuff on the shelf. So I think that's always a good start for people that maybe are more like if you're going to a party a lot of times you have different palates. Some people know nothing about wine. They just want something delicious. For reds, I think Australian Shiraz is actually fantastic. I have this from Yalumba. This is the Barossa Shiraz. This is $16 retail, 2021. Drinks more like a $35-$40 wine. This is fruity. Everybody's going to like it. It's rich and bold enough to go with turkey, duck. It can go with meats as well. I mean, because that's the beauty. Wine changes right when you pair it with food. Another example, I think New Zealand Pinot Noir. Almost everybody likes Pinot Noir when you bring it to a party. I know me personally, when I mean, I'm always welcome because I have tons of wine. So when I come to parties, I bring 6 to 12 bottles.
Whoa.
So if you're bringing if you're bringing free booze, you're always welcome.
Yeah,
right?
you're welcome to our parties anytime.
Any day.
Yeah, that's the benefit of the business. You get a lot of wine samples to taste. But this New Zealand Pinot Noir can offer tremendous value for money opposed to California. This is, let's see if I get this right here. This is the Te Pa New Zealand Pinot Noir. This comes in at about $24 from Marlborough in New Zealand, the South Island, where it's mostly known for Sauvignon Blanc. This is fantastic. Pinot Noir is just so easy drinking, and it goes with a variety of things. You can use it as a white wine. You can like a white wine characteristics, pair with fish or lighter stuff. You can drink it with meats too. I think it's phenomenal. If you want probably the ultimate, if you want value again, another place I'll go to is Rioja in Spain. Spain is fantastic. This is the Marqués de Cáceres. I was actually just there at the estate. This Crianza, I think you can get it in a lot of shops, even upscale supermarkets. I think even Target for $12.97. I mean, for red wine, that's tremendous value for money. And then lastly, for like, if you're going to a party and there's more people that know a little bit more about wine and you want something that's complex, that can impress them, but yet everybody at the table is going to like, I think Chateauneuf de Pape is the best example. It's in the southern France. It's fruity, it's bold, it's rich enough. You're going to spend a little bit more. You're going to start at $40-$50. This is the Chapoutier Le Bernardin. This is readily available, consistently good. $59. I know it's not cheap. Bold, rich, going to go with the meats. Going to have complexities to impress even the most discerning palates. Yet it's fruity enough for everybody to enjoy. So I think Chateauneuf, I've always given it to people, and everybody's always impressed. Chateauneuf de Pape, if you're bringing it, the party also means Newcastle the Pope. When the Roman Empire moved to Avignon, they had to build a new castle for the Pope, and that's what Chateauneuf de Pape means. So
I love all of these options. You've given us all kinds of different price points. I do want to talk about price point just a little bit more because we saw such a range there, and we know wine can get way more expensive than even some of those examples, the $60 bottle you showed us. How much does it actually matter when we're talking about the price? If I spend $200 on a bottle of wine, is it going to blow my mind, or is it?
Most definitely probably not. Wine there's always a scale of diminishing returns. Like we were talking about tech, for instance, like in cameras, for instance, you spend $200, it's going to be vastly superior than a $50 camera. But when you start going up in price, you get diminishing returns. Wine is a status symbol. It is a luxury product. Especially in America, unlike Europe, where you can get really affordable wines that are pretty good. I personally, if you talk to us, you can drink some of the greatest wines in the world if you know what you're looking for, if you have somebody that's knowledgeable, in the $30 to $50 range, sometimes even less than that. You do not have to break the bank. A lot of these wines, they're ridiculously expensive. They have name. It's a supply and demand thing. That, and a lot of these wines are meant to be aged for quite some time. So you're going to bring them and you're going to open them, and they're not going to be always super pleasurable. So people do not need to feel pressure to spend a ton of. I mean, when I was working retail, there was a great Chardonnay by Diatom. It's from California. That wine is $17.95. Drinks like a $30-$40 wine. Every time I recommend that, people would come back in and buy cases of it. So just being okay with the fact that you don't need to know everything about wine. Even for a wine person, it's impossible to keep up with everything. There's so many wines, there's so many countries. Everybody's making really good wine nowadays. Go to the local shop which you frequent. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. Tell them your budget. Say, hey, I only want to spend $20. Can you find me something that's fruity, that's enjoyable, has these kind of characteristics, or is like a wine that I tasted recently that you take a picture of? I was always my pet peeve when I was working retail. I say, take a picture of the wines you like. There's no excuse not to. Everybody has a phone.
I love that advice. That's fantastic advice. I have to tell you, my family, my husband's family, every year we get together for summer vacation and we do a blind wine tasting competition, which is so fun. But we set the price.
The reigning champion?
We are this year. It's the first time we've ever won, and I don't even remember the varietal, if I'm being honest. But we set a price point at $25, and there's one family member who always prides himself on going and getting like the Costco wine just to see how the Costco wine will
Stacks
perform.
up to all the other wines.
And generally it's pretty good. But it is so fun to go into the store and, you know, we tell the person who's at the shop, like, here's the plan. This is the varietal. Give us the best option for under $25, and you can see the wheels turning. These people are like,
yeah, they get competitive. They're like, we want to win.
Yeah, and so I go back to the store and be like, okay, that one was a good one. That was amazing. And then there was one year that was not so good. We lost really, really badly. So, you know.
Well, first of all, you're pretty geeky. You and your friends are pretty geeky if you're willing to do some blind tastings, and that. To me, that's just like music to my ears. When I was working retail part-time, I loved when people would come in with those kind of challenges. That's why you utilize these people are really passionate. You know, wine people are generally pretty passionate. They want to share knowledge. Sometimes they overshare and people's eyes start to glaze over and roll. But that's an art to really communicate more practical things. But that is always a great exercise. When you go in, you kind of have an idea of what you're looking for. Doesn't have to be the exact wine, but maybe the variety, the style. And then you just tell the shop owner or the employee what you're looking for. That's where you're going to get the best results.
I love that.
And you don't need to know all the vocabulary. You like something fruitier. You like something maybe on the sweeter side. You like something that's more mineral tasting. You like something that's quite acidic or sour, so to speak. These are key phrases or key characteristics that help identify to get you the best bottle you possibly can get at the best price.
I love that. So I was watching a couple of your videos, and I know you looked into this a little bit. Say I found a bottle of wine that I tried. I wanted to have one glass tonight, and then I want to save the bottle and have another glass tomorrow and maybe the next night. Is there a way to keep wine fresh a little bit longer so we don't have to toss it?
Yeah, I think that for white wines, you can put them in the fridge for 4 or 5 days, and they're going to be fine. Red wines, they deteriorate faster. The product I like for general consumers is Repour. I've tested it against other more expensive products. It's just I had one over there, but I don't want to get up. The only thing is they're single-use plastic. That's what, is turned off to a lot of people, but they cost less than, like, when you buy a pack, probably less than $1, and they keep the wine fresh for up to a month. All you do is uncork or unscrew the bottle, and when you're done, you just stick it on top like a stopper. You got to keep the bottle vertical, and it keeps the wine amazingly fresh. So for somebody that's only is by themselves, or maybe it's a couple that don't want to drink a ton, just want to drink a glass, I think that's a fantastic option. And it's so affordable. If you have a bunch handy, you can have a couple bottles open. And there are hacks where you can get like maybe 2 bottle use out of one of those little devices, even though they're rated for just 1 bottle.
So does that work as well as those like really fancy, like you put the needle down the cork and
the
then
Corvin? Yes, yeah. It does. It does work. They're different uses. Like I am sponsored by Corvin. I use them professionally because I get lots of samples. I get maybe 1,000 wines sent to me every single year. So I got to taste them. I don't want to open them and just dump them out. And it's great for my personal use because the cork still stays on. Then I could retaste them. Sometimes I gift them to people, whatnot. But there's a little bit more, that goes into it. You have to know the technique and everything like that. Those Repours, they work just as well, sometimes better, and they're easier to use. For the general consumer, that's what I would recommend.
Awesome. You brought up corks and screw tops. Is there an actual difference in the quality of wine we are going to get when we're comparing those two things?
Zero. And as wine people know, like I love Stelvin screw caps. Australia, New Zealand, close to 90% of the wines are bottled under screw cap. I've tasted some great wine. There are some great wines bottled under screw cap. And I personally love it because if I'm going to spend money on a bottle of wine when I bring it out, and if it's corked, it's the worst thing in the world. It's so frustrating. I do not, a lot of the world is, more of the world would be moving to screw cap, but in Europe, some of the markets, it's hard to introduce this to the domestic market, like Italy. Screw caps just do not work in Italy. Italians want a cork.
So I also wanted to just chat about the wine industry in general. We've seen so many reports about different generations maybe drinking alcohol less or kind of opting for a lifestyle that's alcohol free. How is that actually happening? How is that impacting the wine industry?
Oh, definitely. Like the wine industry is down quite a bit, or significantly the last couple of years. What we see is actually people are going away from cheaper wines, which actually for me as a wine professional, the world doesn't need any more of that cheap plonk. People are drinking less, but drinking a little bit better. But yes, I do see with the younger generation, and I'm end of millennial, so I'm 43. But I do see younger people obviously opting to drink less for the most part. I saw a controversial podcast last week, and the guy was actually agreed with. He says, "I think younger people need to go out and drink a little bit, need to go out, need to socialize, need to make a few mistakes, because those are stories that builds you into who you are as a human being." And wine, I think, is probably, wine, alcohol is a toxin, but if you look at the quality of alcohol is dependent on where it comes from. It's not a double distilled product. It's a naturally fermented product. I mean, that's why it was probably one of the first fermented beverages on the planet. And generally, when you're drinking wine, you're not getting sloshed, right? You're having dinner with friends or over at somebody's house. So I think it's, I guess, generally one of the safer alcohols, so to speak, if there is such a thing. It is a problem in our business, and people are worried about it, producers especially. And I would one of the missions of my life is to help people demystify and enjoy wine better. To me, it's the most complex, it's the most enjoyable, most delicious beverage on the planet.
I love it. That is a good place to wrap up this podcast. If people want to find out more about you or find any of your social media accounts, where can they go?
I think Dr. Matthew Horkey on YouTube is kind of my main hub, and then you can find me everywhere else. If you search my name, though, I'm all over the internet.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. This was so fun. And I feel like I learned a lot, kind of wine 101. And I also am inspired to go try some of those suggestions you had.
All right. Susan, Kelly, thank you so much. And you two go out and enjoy that glass of wine together.
Deal.
Will do. Thank you.
Well, that was a really fun conversation.
I would have that and I learned something, which was great too. So it was fun and knowledgeable.
Which one of the wines that he suggested are you going to try?
I think the Shiraz is at the top of my list.
That kind of caught my eye too. I haven't had a Shiraz in a long time. And I was like, you know what? If he says it's good, I trust him.
He was kind of selling it. I agree.
I love it. And lots of good information. I also loved the advice about being direct. If you are taking a bottle of wine as a gift for a host, for a party, I love the idea of being direct. Like, I would love to try this tonight, or I would love you to enjoy this later after the party has wrapped up and everybody's gone home. Kick back, enjoy this on your own. I think that's so great.
Well, and it kind of sets the expectation of like, okay, this is kind of a drinkable one, and this one might be a little more special to hold on to, that you'll actually really get to try and not have to share with the group.
So much fun advice, and like we said, the holidays and wine pair well. The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton. And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can. Send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile news app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock, and every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.